Welcome back to Wheel and SNES. You got George and Josh here. If you don't know, we play Super Nintendo games, but we don't get to pick what Super Nintendo game we want. We let a randomizer wheel tell us what Super Nintendo game to play. So this week, what did we draw, Josh?
American Gladiators.
So American Gladiators. Have you... The old school American Gladiators, were you alive when it was on?
Oh, I watched them.
Huge American Gladiator fan. Just throwing that one out there. And I do remember, I don't know that I have this game. I feel like I do. I'll have to look later. But I definitely know I played the shit out of this game growing up. And I have nothing but fond memories for it. But, kind of a double-edged sword. We're going to go back and play it after... 20 to 30 freaking years. So we're going to see what happens. But before we start, Josh, do you, I don't know if I said it's episode 42, season 4, episode 2. Do you want to hear what the back of the box has to say?
Yeah. It better be pumped. It better be like solid 80s pump up stuff.
It says American Gladiators. Today's most innovative sports event. American Gladiators is now the most innovative sports game available for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. 7 events, including the Wall, the Joust, the Assault, Human Cannonball, Atmosphere, Powerball, and the Eliminator, and they all have them trademarked, so I guess they feel the need to put that in there. They're all captured with digitized photography and life-size combat. We've included all the personalities and profiles of the real-life gladiators. You've got, of course, these are all trademarked too. Nitro, Ice, Laser, Thunder, Gold, Turbo, Zap, Lace, Blaze, and Gemini are all here, and just like their television counterparts, they'll never give in without a fight to the finish. With tournament play, scoring game rules, and arena design taken right from the show, this game is as real as it gets. GameTech's American Gladiators for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System is survival of the fittest.
I already got a problem with that.
What's that?
They didn't bring in Diamond? Was Diamond added later, or...?
I don't know. I do know Diamond. I feel like there's only 2 professions one can go in with names like Nitro, Ice, Laser, Zap. It's American Gladiators or strippers.
Yeah, either one.
Maybe I'm sure they did both.
They probably did.
So, developed by Incredible Tech on the NES. There was actually an NES game that was quite a bit different than this. Magitech Design did the one on Super Nintendo, published by GameTech. Do you remember the other GameTech games we played, Josh?
I do not, off the top of my head.
Jeopardy Sports and Family Feud.
Okay.
And there may have been another one in there. So I'm sitting here kind of thinking, they got game shows. Technically, this is a game show, right?
Yeah.
It's just a little weird that, I think Game Tech is like the trivia, smart shows.
See,
and
I was wanting to say Jeopardy and them because it was, like I say, it was a game. But game show, but I'm like, well, this isn't really a game show, is it? But
well, that's the thing that you got to think about. To me, it's not, but it is. Kind of is.
You're competing for money. Which that's what game shows are, right?
Yeah. So, and I think it may have been when they re-released it with Hogan and Ali's daughter on it. I think if you won or you did something, you got to become one of the gladiators. Like maybe as if you won like a season or you made it through like a whole I don't know what it was, but I could be making this shit up, but I feel like that was a thing. But I don't think it was in the olden days. I think it was with the new revamp.
The revamp, yeah.
So it was designed by Lonnie Rott and Chris Oberth. So the game for the NES was in 1991, but 1992, this came out on the Sega, the Genesis, the Amiga, Atari ST, and MS-DOS. And I just bet this was a banger of an MS-DOS game.
Yeah. I'll say it had to have.
So I guess we're just going to kind of go in with the background. It's a game show. It's a
cross with sports, I guess.
So kind of a little bit of write-up I got is the show debuted in 89. Basically what you're doing is you're pitting 2 male opponents two female opponents against each other. So it's male versus male and female versus female.
Yep.
And you're just average Joes. And you're going up against the Gladiators in a handful of events. And they have several games. So if I'm remembering correctly, whoever has the most points at the end when they go into the final stage of Eliminator, they get like so many seconds per point. So if I had like 20 points and you had 18 points, I get like an 8-second head start on the Eliminator. They got a head start. So it did matter to rack the points up.
Gotta stop you right there.
What?
You know, whenever we split up, I went home and I immediately looked this up. Because I'm like, I remember watching this. It's the opposite way around. You don't get a head start. You have to beat your opponent by that amount of seconds.
Okay, so that's it.
At least the first
okay,
three.
So I knew there was
maybe they change it.
Well, no, you may be right. I just know there was a handicap for Tom, and I felt like I remember you were probably 100% right because I remember him running up the speed belt.
See, but then again, I have a memory of them delaying it. You know, like
so we got a Mandela effect going on here.
I don't know. So
either way, you had better beat the other bastard. Like, if he had more points or she had more points than you, you had to beat them. Whether you had to make up time or you had to finish before them. And you're right. Now that I think of it, I don't know which it is.
I don't either.
So,
because I remember at home watching this, like I played it for a few minutes, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just curious. Like, can I watch this? Can I rewatch these old shows? And I was sitting there, and my wife, she's never watched them. Mm-hmm. So I was explaining to her about it.
So did you watch a full show?
I watched 3 full shows.
Was it as cool as it used to be?
No, absolutely not.
You know what? All right. So to me, this is kind of like just throwing this out there because I have it in my little write up here. As this is a esque show. I feel like it's the original Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
It's like Ninja Warrior-esque. Now, Ninja Warrior may be older than American Gladiators, but it was essentially the same thing. It's just pitting strength, will, and brawn.
And determination.
And you remember that the one thing that always hung people up was in the Eliminator, that bicycle.
Hand crank. Yeah.
So we'll go through real quick. You had all these events that you competed in. And I feel like there's probably more than what was in the show or in the game. Maybe not.
Well, the show, I noticed that they had the rings. You remember the rings?
Yeah, and they would like latch on. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
You need to go back and rewatch them.
So, one of the events was the joust, which was kind of like the classic. That was my least favorite event always growing up. I know they call it the human cannonball. For some reason, I think it's like the swing shot. Yeah. Where you basically, it's like a swing and you try to knock a gladiator off a dang pedestal.
Yeah.
You've got the wall, which always is like anxiety induced. And a lot of the games that are on here, I forgot about the rings. But
yeah, the rings weren't on it.
The Eliminator always had like a conveyor belt that you had to run up. And then it's
like a steep 45
and I think
angle.
That second one would be like where you had to do the hand crank. Yeah. And then there's like a little zip line. And, it was just...
There's the cargo net. There was the balance beam.
And then you got them gladiators that's got the back.
Behind
and
the doors.
Sometimes they would fuck you up, man.
Yeah.
And, God, it was such a good show. And even when they remade it, it was still a pretty damn good show. It wasn't the same, but it was still pretty cool.
I said I was telling it to my wife about it. And I said the same thing you did. I go, now in the Eliminator, the other dude should get like an X amount of head start due to his ability.
Yeah.
And then they took off at the same time. And I'm like, I don't remember this.
Okay.
But now there's 2 seasons of it on YouTube. And I only watched 3 episodes of the first season. So maybe they changed it in season 2. I don't know.
Well, and I know that if it came out in 1989, and they may have changed some stuff even before then because, like I say, the show had been out for 3 years when the game was released, so they probably worked on the game for a little bit as well. But regardless, it was just you against the other person. I don't remember what you win. I know it was money of some sort, maybe $10,000 or something like that. But
I think on the show itself, it's like you win $10,000 for your event, but it's like $100,000 for the full tournament.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to look up how much did a contestant win.
Yeah, because it was a tournament based. It wasn't just a standard 1v1. It was an actual bracket that they broke down into.
You're right. Damn, there is more than I remember.
I told you, go back and rewatch. I went back and rewatched it.
The show awarded cash prizes depending on how far the contenders advanced. For the first 5 seasons, $10,000 cash was awarded for winning the half-season finals. Runner-up was getting $5,000. Contenders that lost the semifinal was getting $2,500 for advancing that far. Now, mind you, at the end of the day, you know, you had to be pretty fit, and I've got some fun facts on like the casting process of the contestants. So really, this is kind of like Ninja Warrior. Like, you've got to have some skill. You've got to be a fit person, and you probably enjoy working out, or you work hard at your craft. So winning any money, I mean, you're competing against people, so it's kind of like its own sport. So, you know, to each their own. Winning money is just kind of a bonus. So you probably didn't just get to show off, just get to beat a gladiator.
Compete against the gladiators.
Yeah. And I mean, these gladiators were swole.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking like these are no little kids out here.
They were built.
Yeah, like there was steroids aplenty on these fools, you know. They weren't like bodybuilder big, but they were big.
Yeah.
Oh, and assault. That was always my favorite. Where the most iconic thing in American Gladiators is that dude shooting a tennis ball.
That
100 miles an hour.
Yeah, hitting people in the face and shit.
All right, so with all that build up, let's jump into the game, Josh. Is there anything that I've left out that we need to talk about on American Gladiators first, I guess is what I need to say.
No. I mean, I am kind of upset that they didn't have the reins in this game, but...
Well, I don't know how you would have did them.
I don't either, but...
All right, so let's jump into what makes the game. And I've got the first one I'm going to say is pretty spot on. I don't think I'm going to say it if it wasn't a sports game. It kind of follows the fundamentals of American Gladiators.
Yep.
So you've got the events that you watch on TV. Like, I bet you there is no doubt. I watched this TV show, threw my damn underwear on top of my head, ran in the room and just started hammering out some damn American Gladiators on Super Nintendo. Yeah. That had to happen in my life.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. I think they hit the opening soundtrack to a point, you know, the American Gladiator theme song, because I wanted it to compare. Was it good? Was it bad? It was a digitized version of it, which was passable. I said it was.
So it's passable. Wasn't good as a digitized version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, no,
like that,
no.
Right? Which mind you, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, more iconic theme song. Like,
yeah.
I remember the show. I couldn't really remember the theme song as much, but I did, and I guess to go into that, I did put the music was okay.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't nothing crazy. I don't even really think there was a whole lot of crazy sound effects in there, but the music fit.
Yeah.
Even, just not just the intro music, I guess, but like in between, during the games.
I was okay with the little music in between the rounds that tally up how bad you suck at the game points. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, even though this probably can double back on the Break It, I enjoyed the bios of the gladiators.
I did too.
And I mean, they were actually pretty interesting. It's like Nitro, he played for the Kansas City Chiefs and then played overseas for 2 years. Or like, was it like, I don't know if it was Lace or who. It's like, she was actually competing, getting ready for the 92 Olympics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I like this. And now, mind you,
and then here you are, average Joe, going up against these professionals.
George, who's ate 6 out of a dozen donuts this morning. Yeah, but I think it would get really old going through that over and over again each game. But it was a nice touch.
It was.
I think it does. I guess we'll throw in there. It has all the games that you remember. I enjoyed them. I forgot about the rings, to be quite honest. So I don't know that there's really any other games that was missed. But you caught the big ones.
Yeah, like I say, the only reason why I knew the rings were missing was because I watched the show. I had to. Yeah,
I would have never even thought about them. And all them rings, that probably was more anxiety than the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Because those guys, like, okay, here's the other thing. have you ever stood on like a pedestal? Have you? And there be, I don't know, 40 rings hanging down, and you just jump up on them and start practicing. Like, these gladiators have this shit at their ready.
At their disposal.
Yeah, I can guarantee nobody's went across a ring filled like that.
Yeah.
And so the gladiators, I feel like they used to talk a little bit of smack, too, in there. And, like, you're fucked. Like, there is no way.
Because the whole objective of the ring is to get from one end to the other. And granted, they like the first set I think was like 5 rings, and then it like went to 7, and then it went back down a little bit. But
I just remember them reaching, and that ring would be swinging, and it'd be out. Oh god, it'd give me anxiety.
And then also on top of that, the gladiators, they would originally grab you by the waist with their legs, and then just full weight, and then start trying to tug you down. Dude, no, fuck that.
Well,
that's how you rip a shoulder out of a socket.
But yeah, the swing shot, I always thought that, or I guess human cannonball.
The human cannonball.
I always enjoyed that. Yeah. The assault was there, and some of these games like assault, they might not have been like. Well, we'll go into some of this on the break it. I want to go game by game on break it.
Yeah.
But trying to put these together on a Super Nintendo, just having them, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
So, like, if the game graphically or control-wise kind of missed the mark a little bit, I bet it was still quite a challenge, Now, I'm going to not dig on it too much. The game is, it is what it is. It doesn't, let me just say, it doesn't go above and beyond, I don't think. But one of the things that the game does is it does make you want to power through and play the games. So, I mean, the human cannonball is kind of somewhat difficult to play. But I could power through human cannonball because I want to play Atmosphere or something like that. Yeah. And which I still think Atmosphere has the reason Fusion Frenzy has that game.
Oh, 100%.
Probably because of Atmosphere. Yeah. But, the game scratches the itch. If you want to play American Gladiators, you want to get some Gladiator-esque stuff, it scratches enough of an itch. So, I've only got one more thing that makes it and breaks it, and it's probably the big thing for me that makes it. Do you have anything you want to add in here, Josh?
My big thing for it is the rounds weren't too long to where it was mind-numbing.
You were correct.
Like, I think it was the perfect amount.
It was paced pretty good. You're right. Not one of the games, like say, when I guess I put, it makes you want to power through, it scratches the itch. Even though there was games that you didn't like, you could breeze through them pretty quick.
Yeah, only about a minute, 2 minutes at the max.
Yeah, but even if you did get to the game you want, you didn't feel shortchanged. So they did pace that correctly.
Yeah. I thought the rounds were very, very easily done with the time where it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't murder. You didn't want to slit your wrist.
Now, my last thing that I've got for Make It is it essentially, it captures the essence of the 90s TV show.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's the best thing that they got going for it. It ain't like the Untouchables when you're like, oh, this captures the essence of what that TV show's about. No, that is fucking garbage. Yeah. There's no denying that this is American Gladiators, and it does a pretty damn good job at it for what it is. Now, mind you, if you weren't an American Gladiators fan or you didn't like the show, you're going to hate the freaking game. Yeah. There is no doubt on that. But it did enough to warrant that, and I think you're right. Especially, I've completely bypassed the whole pacing of the levels. I think it did. It tried to play to its strengths. It didn't want to overstay its welcome.
And I would have not noticed it, but playing it and then actually watching the show, I'm like, you know what? They've paced these levels real good, and it's not really.
And I feel like even on the TV show, they didn't overstay their welcomes either. I mean, I feel like each game
was quick. It's about 2-3 minutes
because I think they would always have the guys go and then the girls, and maybe the girls on the next round and then the guys or something like that. And that was another thing that overall that the show did good. It wasn't just like watching a bunch of guys out there bro up. Hey, and at the time, it would be easy to have a versus competition with just men, but they gave women. They got.
Yeah.
I could go ahead and tell you, I don't think I ever seen a woman that looked like a freaking 1990s American Gladiator woman in my damn life until you and you're like, oh man, there's some freaking swole women out there, and so it was equal opportunity too for its time, but you gonna jump on over into break it, Josh?
That's it.
All right. Even though I like the way that the Gladiators bios are, other than that, the startup seemed pretty cheap and lazy.
It was bad.
And that's probably for all of Game Techs. It was about the most basic repeating. I was actually trying to do a little bit of a top up while the title screen was on. I was like, I gotta stop this shit. It was pretty bad. And while we're talking about lazy, the button mapping
was terrible.
Yeah, it was definitely sus, Now, there's some games that didn't require using the D-pad. There's some games that should have, and they didn't use the buttons, I guess, not the D-pad.
Yeah.
There's some games that did use the buttons, and some of it was a little weird, and then some of the games should have used the buttons,
Button mapping was also terrible.
Do you want to, I guess while we're here, do you want to run down each of the games that you had to play?
Yeah.
Okay. The first game that you play in the game is Assault.
Why is that number one?
I don't know. I feel like that would been toward the end.
That's me. I thought that would be closer towards the end. I didn't think you were going to start out with one of the most iconic parts of American Gladiator.
Now, did they rotate the games? Did they play the games in the same order on the show?
No, they rotated.
Because I know, the wall always did seem to be at the end.
Yeah, the wall was always close to the end. Atmosphere or the... I don't want to call it the football one, but...
Powerball or whatever.
Powerball was always in the front.
Okay. Well, Assault, to me, was always one of the favorite ones, just because you got a gladiator shooting freaking...
100-mile-per-hour tennis balls, actually.
Yeah, so you kind of get the part where he runs over there and he gets to the first station. So in Assault, there's 6 or 7 stations, and you go from, basically a damn... freaking, I think the very first station was just a bunch of softballs that you could throw. So this gladiator.
No, the first station was
the last station I think was the
last station was.
The first one I think was a gun or a crossbow of some sort.
It was a crossbow. It went crossbow, bazooka, gun, softball.
So this gladiator's up on a pedestal and he is shooting these tennis balls, and there's this big round bullseye above his head, I don't know, 10 feet above his head. And so you got to hit it, and then he'll spray up smoke.
Yeah,
that was always cool too.
Yeah,
and so you're running from station to station trying to shoot
these little Nerf bullets.
And
before Nerf was a thing, I think.
And if you got hit by the tennis ball, the game was over. I'm sure you got 10 points or whatever. Yeah. I think you got a point for every gun that was fired during the show.
Something like that.
But, okay, so going to the station to shoot was okay. Picking up the fucking gun was hard as shit. What was that, the R button?
Yeah.
I'm why the hell is it the R button?
Yeah, wasn't. Yeah,
I'm over here hitting the buttons.
Yeah.
And I'm just I can't pick this. I've got shot 16 times with that damn tennis ball trying to pick up the fucking weapon. And then the aiming mechanism.
The little square up the top corner, that was atrocious.
I feel like it's probably not as bad as most people think, but it was not good. It was bad. It was bad, but not So that's one of your, darling games right there. And it kind of sucked. You kind of ruined it. And you want to talk about some goofy shit, the human cannonball. So, it's a quick game. You get one shot, and technically you got a gladiator sitting there with...
Standing on a joust pedestal with a...
And it's like a football hitting pad.
Yeah.
Marked around the arm like a shield, I guess. And you swing. So, you got 2 power meters, of which you don't know what either one of them fucking does.
Nope.
And the first time I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going off muscle memory playing this game. And it says too slow.
Yeah.
And then I go one, and literally you go all the way up to the like your feet. You're following your feet, and the feet go all the way up to the damn rafters.
Oh, I was waiting to go out of the stadium.
It is the goofiest shit ever.
Yeah.
And then it said too far left. It's like, what the fuck? That was like really goofy. The whole
it wasn't
human
good.
cannonball.
It wasn't good.
Atmosphere, pretty good. I don't have no beast with Atmosphere. So that basically you've got these pods on the ground, you roll over them, you get a point. I have a feeling like you couldn't roll over the same pod twice. Like you had to do one in between.
Well, see, that was the thing. Sometimes my only beef with Atmosphere is I would roll over one.
You was going too fast.
Going too fast. You had to slow it down.
I do remember in the game, the live TV show,
you have to stop.
You kind of have to like slow it down for it, and at the same time, you can be battling. You can freaking block your competitor. Now the whole time you got gladiators in the same balls trying to knock you off,
trying to fuck you.
So
too.
I do know that if you got in a bad spot, because these things were like little,
they were hamster balls.
Yeah, and when you had to get like a little momentum, and if you lost your momentum and you're trying to go up one of them, you were screwed.
Yeah.
So I actually think Atmosphere was maybe the best game that they had.
Yeah, Atmosphere was solid, but like I said, there was the whole aspect of it to where you had to stop or slow down enough, and the slowing down aspect was hard as shit because your whole goal was to try to time it.
Well, I did have a little muscle memory on that. I always lit up. I was smoking Atlas.
Oh, I didn't. I sucked it up.
I was good. Joust, that's my least favorite game out of all of it, and I didn't like it on here.
No.
I thought it was garbage on this.
Yeah.
And let me just go ahead and tell you. So the only part of Joust that's fun was you either made it like a time limit or you knocked the other person off.
Yeah.
Like, so you'd have like basically a foam pit. I think them were the original foam pits, that I'd ever seen. In this game,
they were in the show was a pretty much like an air mattress, like the stunt double air mattress. It wasn't foam, but,
okay.
But yeah, there was a thing there.
So the part that really pissed me off, even though I didn't like Joust, was when you got beat. It was fucking horrible. Even in the first game, you knock somebody off and they start screaming. And this one, the game just stops and the guy backs up or girl and then goes down to a knee. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, I want to knock somebody off.
Yeah.
Could you not give me a damn, like, if I remember too on the show, couldn't you like grab the other person's stick and kind of like shove them or you could get your stick and try to shove them.
You could either done your sticks as an actual baton like they're made, where you actually swat, hit, kick, or you could just sit there and use that as a fucking spear and go, you bastard.
So we move on. So that is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The wall. That was always I feel like that was one of the games the Gladiators were always stronger on. Was the wall. It was a little weird. I'm good at the wall on here. But the movements are super weird.
Yeah, it's very
they control
clunky reach.
I don't know. I feel like it's a chameleon that like reaching out every time it's you reach for one. So the wall there wasn't necessarily nothing really super wrong with it, other than it was just really weird to me the way it moved, the way the control was. And then I think the last one, I think I got them all except for the Eliminator. So the Eliminator. So you're battling for all the freaking bananas.
Yep.
And boy, you're going to have your guy run as fast as possible. So maybe you hold over on the D-pad. Maybe you hold over and then you tap A. Maybe you just hit A and B. No. You use L and R. And I can imagine if you're playing this on an emulator on your phone, it was probably hard as shit.
Oh, it was terrible.
Now, it wasn't. Now, I could power through it pretty good on my controller.
Well, see, after the emulator with that, I actually uploaded it onto my PC.
Uh-huh.
And I changed it to the...
like arrow buttons or something? Okay.
And once it was there, it was just... and my dude took off.
But even during then, you couldn't even really enjoy the obstacles because you're just hitting the buttons as fast as possible, and that's fine. But it's like... This is the big shebang. This is what everybody's waiting for. And you're kind of glossing over these games just by hitting buttons. And then you get to the very end and you actually got like little hurdles you got to jump over. which trying to hit L and R and then using A to jump, not only was it clunky and horrible, it was also very weird looking graphically.
Yeah.
So like each game had a pretty big. Oh, we forgot Powerball. Powerball's the one I forgot.
Yeah.
So Powerball. Now I can understand I'm pretty sure in the show you can only pick up one of the. That's where you have, I think, 5 canisters. You got red and blue, basically Nerf balls. You put them in a canister, you get 1 point, and then there's one in the center.
Yeah.
And you got 3 gladiators.
These weren't actual Nerf balls. They look to be like rugby balls.
Okay.
Like they were bigger than footballs.
So I'm pretty sure in the game, just like on the show, you picked one up. I think the competitors started on opposite sides.
Opposite ends.
And you could, if you got knocked down or lost your ball or went out of bounds, you had to go to the other side to get another one. So you had to alternate sides. And traditionally, you would have a gladiator guarding the first third, one guarding the second third, and then the one guarding the one in the middle. And this is the one that, boy, gladiators really teed up on.
Yeah.
Because it's 1-on-1, it's speed, you've got to juke them or something. And I don't know how many gladiators I've seen just shit whip somebody.
Yeah, they do the full forearm tackle where they just hit and shit wreck you.
This may be, the ring game gives me anxiety. This is probably going to be the most physical abuse that you catch during this whole game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I remember gladiators had to have the alternates come in because they got hurt playing this game. Or, like, get cut up. Now.
Oh, yeah, because that was another thing in the show. That was not that was just rubber mats.
Oh yeah,
have you ever
fell on play mats? Probably sitting on concrete.
Yeah, have you ever like skidded across a rubber mat, dude? You leave layers of skin behind.
And I feel like those gladiators not only enjoyed beating you up, I felt like they took pride on not letting you score shit.
Oh yeah,
like and once again, there's some shit talk, and I'm pretty sure there's been pretty close to some damn fights on there too.
Yeah,
but without the game part itself, you go to pick up your ball. You hit like the A or B button, I can't remember, and it sucked trying to pick a ball up, and then it sucked trying to put it in the container. It was okay until you go to the container and you try to put it in, and it says missed.
Yeah.
It's like, or you're trying to pick up the ball, but you're at like the wrong angle, so you had to step back. And then I don't know how many times I got tackled by that damn gladiator while I was in my damn safe zone over there.
I got hit all the time.
So it was actually probably pretty accurate for what the game is, but I did not enjoy Powerball. So that kind of goes through the games. All the games pretty well have big major flaws. Atmosphere was my personal favorite. I think that was the most sound game.
It was
like it wasn't my favorite in the show, but it was probably my favorite one to play because it was the least broken. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here for a few more things. I feel like the game doesn't have replayability. Yeah, you want to play it 4 or 5 times. But you want to get good at your events, you're probably going to play the game a few times. But there's no real reason to keep going back. There's no difficulty settings. No. Because I felt like sometimes I wasn't scoring any damn points and the competitor wasn't either.
Yeah.
I don't think they would, like, I feel like if I was playing like shit, the competitor should have a big lead on me. And I feel like it really dumbed itself down to this competition.
I think they wanted to keep it as even as possible.
Yeah, because when I scored points, they had no problem scoring points.
Yeah.
When I didn't, they didn't. But I do feel that whether you were having a tough time with it, maybe you should be able to dial the difficulty down to easy. Maybe if you're having an easy time, dial it up to difficult. You know, to dial it up to normal or easy, normal, and gladiator. And I felt like you probably needed a difficulty setting. Now, this would probably ruin the game, but per se, you're like, hey, man, I'm smoking these, but I'm suck at, like, the wall. There's no opportunity to be able to go in and just practice the wall.
Yeah, no.
You have to go through and play.
You got to replay the entire setup.
Not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there would be... I feel like you just don't level select the eliminator to force people to play the game. But, like, yeah, there would be some games on there like that I would not play, like Human Cannonball. I could go completely fine with just playing the game over and over.
Yeah.
Like mini games. So I did think that and that part ain't really nothing to beat up on like the actual gameplay itself. It's just like kind of options that kind of make sense that you're surprised that you didn't have. And probably my biggest thing, and this is really, I've probably got more that I can pick on the game a little bit with, but this is my big one. There is no reward for winning and no reward for losing.
Yep.
It literally pops up and says, Josh, 22 points, so-and-so, 19, and then it goes back to the startup screen.
Yep.
When you lose, it is
about
the same
to say
thing.
that no nothing, no little fanfare, no flair, no nothing.
It's like you don't get a trophy presentation. You don't get a like in the other Game Tech games like Family Feud and stuff
a little
like that.
speech.
You get to come back and compete again, which really wouldn't have mattered on here. But it was just and I guess at the end of it, it's like, is Game Tech really doing games that are like quiz show video games, or are they just doing TV show video games? Because they're by far, Family Feud and Jeopardy is way better than this game.
Yeah.
So that's the part that kills me, is like, maybe you should stick to the quiz base. This is what happens. Now that they step outside the box. Maybe you should stick with your question based answers.
They shot their shot on this.
Is there anything else that you want to put in this bracket before we move on, Josh?
No, you pretty much covered it.
I will say too that one thing I did appreciate is I don't know that there's many games on Super Nintendo, but I know on computer and some of the stuff that you run across, like when it's like, what's your character's name? You could type in like bitch, dick, or penis, or whatever. That was totally immature. So it'd be like, bitch has won the freaking eliminator. Yeah. And of course it doesn't say that, but I do get to appreciate
whenever games do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even when you put your name as AAA and then you're playing like Kevin or something like that, Sean. All right, Josh. So we got prize starting, we got speed runs, and I've got kind of a plethora of fun facts.
Yeah, I figured you would, because I'm about to say, I about guarantee you these are all based on the show.
Oh, absolutely. That is absolutely it. And I know there's not another American Gladiator game that we're going to play, so I feel like, there's the opportunity to have some good fun facts. Yeah. And they're okay. They're okay. So where do you want to pick up?
I say hit me with the fun facts, because I like having those.
Okay. Basically, this one is, the game was kind of, in the 70s, there's a professional arm wrestler who made a series of events that people could compete that was called the Working Man's Olympics. This is in Pennsylvania. And this is kind of where the show kind of got, I ain't going to say it's like what it is now, but it's kind of where the foundation for it came from. So basically, the guy that was coming up with this had met this guy, what's his name? Johnny Ferraro. And he's the one that really kind of took it to the next level. And he had promoted some stuff for like their work in like the local town, and that's why the guy chose Johnny Ferraro. It took years, but he finally sold the idea to Samuel Goldwyn Company. And in the spare time of Johnny, the promoter, he was a Elvis impersonator.
Oh,
that's kind of not really too much pertaining, but how often do you find Elvis impersonators?
All the time in Vegas.
Well, there's actually one that works at my company as a driver, but he legitimately looks like freaking Elvis Presley. Like, I'm not lying. The company, of course, that owned it was the Samuel Goldwyn Company. So the president of Goldwyn, Dick Askin, was going around trying to shop the game around. And Fox was, I think, one of the first people who wanted the show, but they wanted to have a commitment for a 26 episode deal. But they wanted all of the competitions to be scripted, as far as the outcomes, the trash talk, and who was winning. So they were really trying to WWE it.
Wow.
And they're like, no, we're not doing that.
Wow, no.
So they were wanting to do it more as an entertainment, like wrestling, than it was a competition.
Instead of competition.
This bullet point was sometimes the gladiator names weren't so cool. having toy-ready names like Laser, Nitro, and Zap are pretty memorable. But prior to the fall premiere of '89, they had, before the show got premiered, they had word that the athletes had names like Dominoes, Willie, Catalyst, and Evander. So I think Laser, Nitro, Zap, and Diamond and Gemini, like them were good choices.
Yeah, I think those were solid choices.
So who are you going to go against? Oh, Willie.
I was about to say the same thing. Man, have you saw that Willie figurine?
All right. So here is starting to get a little more juicy here. They had, by the start of the third season, they had 25,000 people trying out to join American Gladiators. And 90% of them were disqualified because they couldn't complete some of the tests. And the one test that eliminated the most was the pull-up competition. They were expecting men to do 25 pull-ups in 30 seconds and women to do 8 pull-ups. And that eliminated 90% of 25,000 people who competed.
Wow, really?
Now, mind you, 25 in 30 seconds is hammer. 8 in 30 seconds will probably give me a damn heart attack, just being out of shape. But
but these people were in, I don't want to say in great shape, but they were in some type of shape.
But that also reminds me of American Ninja Warrior. It's all upper body strength.
It is all upper body.
But I do think that maybe that gives you a shot, because it's like, hey, there's going to be a ton of people, and I kind of appreciate it. It's like, hey, what if we were going to go try to win tickets for something in 6 months? It's 25,000 people are trying to win. But you had to be able to complete these series of events. Like, you at least have a goal you can work at that puts you in the top, 10% of people. So just putting the hard work and perseverance in, you were in the top. So I did appreciate that. The audience. So the company had made a deal with Universal Studios for advertising the attraction on TV. They were hoping to get tourists going to the tapings. But apparently they wanted to go see other events, or not other events, but other attractions. And so there was quite a few people either getting up and leaving in the middle of the show or not coming to the show. So what they ended up doing to combat this, and this is going to sound wild, but they dimmed the lights and they propped up plywood cutouts with hand-drawn faces in the darker sections of the bleachers. So literally, the part of the damn crowd was just nothing but cardboard or plywood cutouts.
That's great. That's great.
I would have never guessed that.
No, but now that makes me want to watch some more episodes and try to pinpoint them out.
So the guy who composed the music, I guess the Gonna Fly Now is the guy that made the music for American Gladiators. His name is Bill Conti. He also did Gonna Fly Now, which is the signature track of Rocky. And he won an Oscar for his work in the music of 1983's The Right Stuff. So you got a guy that basically, he was one of the Rocky guys, doing the music with Rocky. And he did the American Gladiator music.
I said it doesn't seem like they skipped out on this. It seemed like they wanted this to be a huge thing.
So I got 4 more I'll hammer through real quick. These are pretty good. Believe it or not, they did pick these events designed to favor the contestants. That ring is bullshit.
No.
They said that the producer Askin said that they were trying to minimize the size and strength advantages, so they had a realistic shot at winning. They wanted to, basically what they were trying to do is try to get events that a guy who was 5'8" and 170 pounds had an equal chance to either meet or beat the Gladiators. That Powerball one is bullshit too, because your favorites of damn Gladiators with that. Maybe if it was 2 and you could outrun them.
Unless dudes got very nimble feet, quick toes, ballerina style.
Okay, I think this is where he got his start, but there was also a kids version of American Gladiators, and you know who hosted it?
No.
They basically put a little bit of educational elements into it and stuff, and I don't know, it was co-hosted. I think this was one of his early on, if not his start. It was co-hosted by Ryan Seacrest.
Oh, really?
I don't remember the kid one. I kind of can picture it, but I don't remember.
The only thing I remember from like a kid's Gladiator was something Temple.
Hidden Temple?
Yeah.
So also the Gladiators did end up going on strike. So they had 75 licensed items from Nintendo games to apparel to toys, and the Goldwyn company was making millions of dollars off of it. When they had started, now this is coming in, the later seasons, but several seasons in, they were making millions. The company was, but the Gladiators was happy to get hired to do the work. So they'd basically signed away their likeness rights.
Really?
And so they wanted, Goldwyn wasn't going to negotiate. They're like, tough shit,
Should have read the contract.
So that's why they largely recast the show in the 4th season. And it ran several more years after, but, of course, the ratings was suffering. The game was it was on its downhill slide, but the Gladiators weren't getting paid, for what they thought they were. And they said, screw you, we'll go get some more Gladiators, which they probably could because it was big enough that you probably had bodybuilders lining up. And the last but least, this is one I definitely didn't know that I feel like would have been fun as shit. So they ended up taking this show on the road, and they were touring. They did a 150 city tour where they were doing this, and of course they would be they were on places that they wanted to go, but they had it did actually evolve to this. They had American Gladiators Orlando Live, which debuted in 1995 in Kissimmee Auditorium down the road from Walt Disney World, and so it was a dinner show where you got to watch the American Gladiators compete and
have dinner.
As contestants got pummeled with tennis balls, spectators could enjoy a sweat splattered meal for $39.95. You tell me I could eat $39.95? Like, this is like better than medieval times.
Yeah,
I want to throw a turkey leg up there while one of them's on the rings or something like. So that was just some of the fun facts, and there's more. I think I've seen some stuff that I couldn't really verify, but I think one of them was they were using Whitney Houston's touring bus, and they would run into MC Hammer, and there was plenty of stories about how in the height of it, like these celebrities would run into him in restaurants and stuff and invite him to parties. And
the American Gladiators, it was huge for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, even when it came back, I think it was still pretty huge. But and I'm sure there was a lot of sex and steroids and all that.
A lot of drug abuse.
So, all right, we wrapped up.
Hell, you would need cocaine just to do those rings.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was a cocaine fueled set. But okay, so we want to do the price charting. We got to rank it, and then we got the speed runs. You want the speed runs first, Josh?
Yeah, speed run it.
There is 6 speed runs. It's just completing the game.
Okay.
How fast do you think somebody completed the game?
I'm going to say the fastest you can complete this game is probably 15 minutes.
The very last place guy or girl completed it in 5 minutes and 52 seconds.
What?
So, and they've got notes on all these. One of them is like, joust is the key. They're like, you got to win quick or lose quick. Because at the end of the day, it don't even really matter if you win or lose.
Yeah, true. You just got to beat the overall points in the end.
So 4 years ago in Super Nintendo, Yo BGS did it in 5 minutes, 52 seconds flat. No milliseconds on it.
Oh, wow. Bald
Nate, 4 years ago, did it 5 minutes, 13 seconds, and 84 milliseconds. EMAGEN 303. Imagine 303.
Yeah, that's what I was
he did 5 minutes, 8 seconds 3 years ago. 3 years ago, somebody from Chile named Pax did it in 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So we got to come down to milliseconds on the first one and the second one. The second place, Orange King 529, did it 7 months ago. And he has a quote on here of like, hey, I just wanted to find some obscure game, and there's plenty of time for somebody that wants to beat my world record. Like, you know how the speedrunners are. They're a strange breed.
Yeah, they're all They're all
He did it in 5 minutes, 1 second. And they've got a frame counter on this thing, apparently. Like, this is how close, because it must just be the absolute quickest.
Yeah.
He did it in 5 minutes, 1 second, 933 milliseconds.
Okay.
Queuety. Cutie.
Yeah, I just go with cutie.
I thought it was QWERTY at first, but so the second place person did 5 minutes, 1 second, and 933 milliseconds. They did it 1 month ago. 5 minutes, 1 second, 467 milliseconds.
Oh shit!
So literally like half a second. Yeah, like 500 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Separated first from second, and I don't know why I'm so entertained by it, but I am.
Damn.
So, I guess just spam a lot of buttons, try to get through it. You tap the shit out of that damn L and R button, I guess, and you hammer it out. 5 minutes.
God, there's no way.
I can't believe that all 6 have did it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the part that blows my mind. All right. Gonna jump over into price charting eBay. What do you think a loose copy of this sells for, Josh?
See, it's the whole thing of the times. Like, this was so huge, so I don't know if this game was extremely mass produced and that caused it to be super rare, or if it was not mass produced and it's not a lot.
My thinking before I even looked this up was the only 2 Game Tech games I can remember off the top of my head was Family Feud and Jeopardy Sports, which both weren't really expensive games.
Yeah.
I think they were fairly cheap games. So when you start thinking about some games like, Chrono Trigger, where you're thinking of like Square Enix or Squaresoft and some of these games that are like Konami and all that, that are kind of expensive. I don't know that I've ever seen a game that was a Game Tech game that was expensive. So that's the first thing. I'm like, I feel like Game Tech is, and judging by some of the design and some of the setup of this game, is pretty cheap.
Yeah, my gut would say like $20 for it.
You're a little bit high.
Okay.
I was surprised that eBay, I've seen them consistently selling for $16.99, free shipping. Price charting had it about $14.70. Split difference, call it $15.
Yeah, 15.
Which that was a little higher than I thought it was going to be. What do you think a complete copy sells? I've got about a $7 difference between the price charting and eBay from what I've seen.
I would say probably about 38.
Price charting at $37.99.
Yeah.
eBay at $45. So that your rule would have worked on eBay as well. Didn't see a new copy. But price charting, what do you think they've got a new copy for?
I'm going to say probably about 80.
Well, you're low. You're low.
Low?
I ain't going to say a little low, but you're low.
I'll give it a solid 100.
122.
122?
The end of the day, I got this cartridge right here, and I've got $7.50, Josh. And I say, hey, you pick one, I'll take the other. Which are you taking?
I'd probably take the cash on this one.
I feel like this game is overpriced at $15. I feel like this is a solid $10 tops game.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me $8, I'd probably buy it. I got nothing but fond memories of the game. It definitely has not aged super well.
Yeah. You have the nostalgia factor playing in.
Absolutely. If you've never played American Gladiators or never watched a show and you played this and you've heard the premise, without being able to visualize these games and like the memories of them, I'd say the game probably is really bad. But I do have those memories, so I power through them.
Yeah.
And like I say, half our freaking podcast, we've been talking about the actual show itself.
Yeah.
And there's nothing bad you really say about the show other than it probably gets repetitive season after season. Like, if you watched all the seasons back to back to back, you'd probably be about over some damn American Gladiators.
So I've done 3 episodes and I'm done for a while.
So, I feel like this would be a solid $5 to $10 game. I wouldn't pay $15 for this game.
No.
I don't know. I think taking the cash is probably the right idea. I don't know. It's right there at gut check for me. I do not think the game is worth it. with all that being said, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I really need to put in to wrap it up. I mean, the show is great. The game is mediocre at best. The regular Nintendo game isn't that great, but I feel like the regular Nintendo game did a little bit more than this one did. I don't know. It's just an okay game. Just an okay game.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do what we always do, Josh. Plot to take over the world.
Yep.
So, we've got to rank this.
In the brain reference.
And for those that haven't known, just randomly pick American Gladiators to start on Willis Ness, which I'm sure you haven't. We are ranking this. Each season runs 10 episodes, and we rank them 1 through 10. At the end of the season, we dump it into the vat of the other 40 games that we have ranked. So by the end of this, we're going to have all 700 and something freaking games ranked. And we'll tell you, and you can rank along with us, but at the end of this, we're going to have our true rankings of what's the best and the worst Super Nintendo games. So last week, we played a game called Gods.
The connection there is Gladiators.
And yes, and as well, even though I feel like Gods is by far more of an Amiga game than American Gladiators. It was released on the Amiga.
It was.
So there's been themes of seasons. Now this is all randomized, but we've had movies that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the movie is directed by James Cameron. Yep. We've had our first season was Will of Amiga. It seemed like we played like 3 or 4 damn Amiga games.
Then we had the FX season where we played 3 out of 8 FX games.
Yes, and then we had a couple seasons where it was like war games, tanks and airplanes. So we got Gods last week, which by default is the number 1 game of this season. Is on Mount Rushmore for at least four episodes until it gets either moved up or knocked off. We got American Gladiators, Josh. So I guess it comes down to flat out: is American Gladiators better than Gods, or is Gods better than American Gladiator? What's your number 1? What's your number 2?
I'm gonna say this is a number 2 game for me.
Really?
I had a little bit more fun with Gods because it had a replayability part, because you had to replay it to be able to know where all the traps and everything was. So you play American Gladiators for about 2 hours, and I think you're done with this game. You'd set it down. That's where I'm sitting.
I've got nothing but nostalgia.
I know, you got the nostalgia factor playing.
I've got American Gladiators as number 1 and Gods as number 2, but you do bring up a good point. 2 hours of this. Now, 2 hours of Gods is probably going to make me slip my wrists too.
But you're at least learning the levels. That's my whole thing. You're at least learning the levels, learning all the traps.
I'm going to move American Gladiators to level 2, or to not level 2, to number 2. I originally have sat here and thought that it was number 1, but I do think even though it's an incredibly tough game, Gods has more thought put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
going on
if I'm playing something for more than, I'd go ahead and tell you, if you are playing American Gladiators and you play it for 30 minutes and your game runs 10 minutes each, 3 games is going to be pretty tough to hammer through. You've inadvertently swayed me. I was wanting to tell you that you're wrong, but you saying playing this game for 2 hours, you're 100% right, 1,000% right. I don't think I could play Gladiators more than 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
I don't think I played it more than 30 minutes at a time. It was like in small blocks, which I guess is kind of a make it. You could get in and get out, but I do think you are correct.
Do one gauntlet run, do all of them, then set it down, and then come back a couple hours later.
So we're going to wrap up here. You got it. Me and Josh both have Gods as number 1, American Gladiators as number 2. Yeah, we got to call our shot for the 3rd game of this season, Josh. So we normally will have like a theme, it seems like. We already got a theme right here. Are we going to carry on with this theme, or do you think it'll be something different?
I think it'll be something different. You've already referenced it. You said what we do every night, Planet Take the World. I think we're getting a cartoon game.
Okay, cartoon game. I think that we're going to get a game. What am I thinking?
I mean, you could branch off and from this one if you wanted.
We're getting a puzzle game.
Going puzzle?
Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like a Tetris necessarily puzzle. It might be even a puzzle game in the way that God's kind of is a puzzle game. Maybe like a platform puzzle or something.
Well, like an RPG puzzle.
Yeah, I guess you could probably... I guess puzzle is pretty broad. Most RPGs have puzzle aspect to it. I'm just going to go with the puzzle game. There's going to be a little bit of thinking that has to be involved in this game. And that might be a little bit of a cop-out. But if it pulls up in its Secret of Mana, I'm not going to consider that a puzzle game.
No,
I'll say that I just missed on that one.
Yeah, that's a straight RPG.
But if we get something like the Game Boy game Boxel where you're moving, or Bubble Bobble or something, like I will call that a puzzle game.
I would too.
So you're calling cartoon game, I'm calling puzzle game. I guess we're going to draw the next game, and we'll see what happens, Josh. So we're going to be back next week with episode 43.
Episode 43.
Peace out.
See ya.